Claire Winslow here to show you some basic block printing with the Speedycarve. In honor of Halloween, we have a skull, and we are needing a brayer, cutter, ink, a Speedycarve block, and I'm going to use some transfer paper. So I'm going to transfer my image onto the Speedycarve plate or block, and I usually tape that down first so it doesn't move around. And then I'm going to use a pencil to trace over the lines to transfer the image onto the block. Now you'll see the black skull up above me. That's kind of the result that I'm looking for, because I'm going to cut into the plate or the block, and so those lines where I cut in will be white. Everything else will be black. If you wanted to do the reverse and have a white skull, then you would need to cut out the white areas. But for today I wanted to keep it simple, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So this might take me a few minutes to trace everything, and then I can check. Yep, it's working. I'll speed up the camera so you don't have to watch every second of the tracing. I think you can get the idea. You don't have to rub particularly hard when you're tracing, especially with this transfer paper. And if you didn't want to use transfer paper, you can just rub a pencil onto the back of your printout and transfer the graphite that way. Every once in a while I'm going to be checking. That's pretty good. It's rough, but it's good enough, and we're going to be ready to cut soon. I'm going to use a narrow tool, narrow blade. This is my Speedball cutter. And I just want to get an outline of the basic shapes, the basic lines. And I do not need to push very hard because the Speedycarve is really soft. It's actually kind of fun to cut into. But as usual, be careful with your cutting. You don't want to cut in the direction of your hand. So it's better to turn the block so that you can keep cutting away from your hands. And it's very easy to make curved lines. It's not at all like cutting linoleum or wood. So very rewarding, very immediate. You will end up with a bunch of little curly pink bits later, which you'll have to get rid of before you print. So I'm not pushing very hard, and I've got thin lines, and then I've got these broad areas I started already in the background. And I wanted to get just a nice broad, rough texture around the skull. So I'm using my number 5 blade to remove that part of the plate. It's nice to get a variety of lines, you know, wide lines and thin lines. Just gives it more interest. Some people even cut the whole shape out. You could make a stamp. That's always an option. So here we go. The remaining graphite on the plate does not matter. So now we do have to clean up though, otherwise that'll interfere with your printing. So we've got some basic printmaking paper here on the thin side, and we've got our Speedball water-based ink and a brayer. You do have to massage the tube a little bit, I recommend, because the ink tends to settle sometimes. Okay, and in a few seconds I'm going to turn the volume back on so you can hear me rolling the ink. So squeeze out more than you think you need, but don't put it all on your brayer at once. Just put some of it. You want that sound. That's a good sound. And it should look a little sparkly on there, on the brayer. It shouldn't look goopy though, that means you've got too much. So you can pick up your brayer when you exit the plate at the end there. And do it a few times, but don't overdo it. That only comes with practice. Looks pretty good. Now we're ready to print. I'm using my hand. Sorry about the shaky table. You could use a spoon also, or you could even use a clean brayer. Looks good. Now your first print's going to be a little light like that. So keep going and you'll get some darker prints. So each time you make a print, you need to reapply the ink. So we're going for print number 2 here, trying to get it darker. Got a little bit darker, and I will keep going. Hope you enjoyed that.